Welcome to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Kris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. What does finding health look like for you? Do you have a vision for your future self and a way to get there? I'm Dr. Kris, and after 33 years in functional medicine and a lifelong journey through brain health, weight loss, hormones, mindset, and faith, I know that real transformation doesn't come from willpower or white knuckling your way to wellness. It comes from gratitude. Honoring your body as the temple that God created. This show is about body stewardship, not shame. It's about rewiring your mindset, your metabolism, and your spirit to find lasting health without the grind. I'll help you cut through the noise, see opportunities instead of obstacles, and finally live the healthy, purposeful life you were created for. Let's spark faith and transformation together. Spark Faith starts now. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Spark Faith Show. I am Dr. Kris Sargent, and today we are talking all things motivation. I'm recording this on January 8th. However, let's just think about any time that you've ever started something, and there are three things that could happen at that point. So this can apply just about any time during the year, any day during the year. And that's kind of the way I roll with change, right? You can change Monday morning or Wednesday afternoon, right? Timing doesn't matter. So today I'm going to start with motivation being something that can be so elusive and so seemingly shifting. And so I'm going to work on grounding you today in some better places to be motivated from and to keep you motivated if you've started something new. So at every point, or at some point in every time you try to change something, whether it's health or faith, or maybe it's a job or a calling or something in your relationship, motivation kind of just fades, right? Whether it's like, the old, I'm starting a new diet Monday morning, but by Monday afternoon, you've already eaten a donut. And I really want to push back, and I've pushed back before on this. So we're going to push back on that just a little bit today. So I'm going to push your boundaries a little bit today. And I'm going to say that this is a moment for a wake-up call, right? You may need to be asking yourself some new questions, or maybe looking at something from a very different point of view. So I want to ask you a few questions right now. If you're at this place and you're kind of losing your motivation, what has happened in the past? Like, what has been your prior pattern? What are the stories you're telling yourself about your current situation, whether it's something that happened today, something that's out of your control, maybe it's something that's in your control. What are you telling yourself about that versus your goals that you had started on and had in mind to keep doing, right? Whatever that thing is, maybe it's just cleaning your room. Maybe it's a diet. Maybe it's cleaning your car. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. You pick it, right? Are you making your self-care into an excuse? What? That seems so backwards. Sometimes when we get started on something and we think, oh, well, I'm doing really well, so I deserve some more self-care, so I'm going to have the donut, or I'm going to skip the room clean today, or I'm just going to let this thing slide because it's better self-care than sticking with my goals and the promises that I made to myself. I want you to think about that, right? I know these are really hard, and I don't like to look at them either. So are you making your self-care an excuse? Are you using a current hardship as an excuse? That's harder, right? When I was going through it with my mom, as you all know, she lived with me with dementia for 5 years. That would have been a really easy time not to take care of myself. But because I made it a priority, I was able to stay in the right mindset to take care of her and have the energy to do it, right? So that was my driving motivation to stick in it. Not that I was perfect, because we're going to talk about that a little bit too. Perfectionism plays no role here whatsoever. But are you using your current hardship as an excuse? Are you leaning into what I just talked about, your perfectionistic tendencies? As a recovering perfectionist, I can definitely get into the all or nothing kind of place. And I have clients that tell me, well, I'm just an all or nothing kind of person. Well, I think, and I'm going to challenge you to be a gray area person and find those places where all or nothing actually serves you and where it doesn't serve you, right? So I'm going to stop whatever is spinning in your head right there. So just let me stop you right there. And the biggest question that I really want you to ask yourself is, how can I do it differently this time? So I'm going to say it again. The biggest question to ask yourself is, how can I do it differently this time? That's kind, right? That's being kind to yourself. How can you maybe let something else be the focus instead of what you've always done, right? Well, I've always done it that way. Well, maybe always doing it that way isn't working anymore, right? So today, I just want to ask you a different question, another new question. What are you going to allow God to do in this moment, right? In the middle of the struggle, right? Not just at the beginning, not just at the end, at the finish line, but what about in this messy middle? And I've talked about the messy middle. I have a podcast from long ago about the messy middle that nobody likes to talk about because the middle is going to be messy, right? Weight loss is not a straight line down. It kind of goes like this for us ladies. Changing habits are not a straight line, right? Sometimes you do better than others, and sometimes you fall off, but you can get back on. So just remember, what can God do in that messy middle while you're trying to create something different in your life? So I want to really acknowledge reality at this point because some of y'all have already quit, right? Some of you started something recently and you've already quit. Maybe you started on January 1st or last Monday and it got too hard or something interfered. What did you allow to get in the way of your goals and dreams and health? Because you know I'm all about the faith and health all mixed up, right? We can't separate those pieces out. They are all part of who you are. The second group of y'all are grinding it out and you are exhausted. You are digging into your willpower, you're white knuckling it through. And that is just not a fun place to be. And some of you just started and you kind of feel crappy, right? Maybe you feel worse and you're like, why did I even start this? I feel terrible. This is super common, especially if you're coming off like alcohol, sugar, caffeine, junk food, all that kind of stuff. Vitamins are depleted and maybe you're restricting too much. And so you're just going to feel crappy as your body starts to do its own detoxification. I want to normalize an emotional crash that can definitely happen like 7 to 14 days after any kind of change. Like you can go for 2 weeks white knuckling, you can keep going for a couple weeks. Anybody can do that, right? But then you're like, ugh, this is too much. I give up. And so here's what I know about most of y'all. Maybe not all of y'all, but most of y'all. I think you'll get this when I say it. If there was $5 million pots waiting for you at the end of you reaching whatever that goal is, whether it's cleaning your room or a diet or getting your hormones right or going to the gym or whatever your goals are, if there was $5 million after you did it perfectly for a year, let's just say, or you got to some X kind of goal, 5 million. All right, ladies or gentlemen, like $5 million waiting for you. If you stuck to your promises that you made to yourself, my guess is you would do whatever it took to get it, to keep going, to get it going, and all the old excuses would fall away. So what that tells me is that y'all can do this if you can shift the narrative that's happening upstairs, right? Because if there's $5 million out there, you're going to do what it takes to get there. So today, we are not going to talk about willpower. We are going to talk about how God meets us in the messy middle, right? In the middle of our process. So, for those of y'all who have already quit, I've got 3 segments, right? For those of y'all who have already quit, for those of you who are like exhausted and pushing through, and for those of you all who started and feel kind of crappy. So, for those of y'all who already quit, shame cannot be your motivator, right? Grace is the reset. And we're going to drop into some scripture here because it's beautiful, first of all, and it's timeless. And this is from Lamentations, where they're crying, people are crying out because they're hurting, right? And so here is Lamentations 3:22 and 23. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning or moment. Great is your faithfulness, right? So quitting doesn't mean failure. It really just means you're human. Ugh, I know. I struggle with that humanity too. And God's mercies reset daily or moment by moment, not weekly, not monthly, not annually, right? And the guilt says, oh, I blew it, right? My behavior did not match my goals. Shame says, I'm a terrible person for quitting. Choosing a behavior that doesn't align with your goals doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that you made a choice that took you further away from your goal. And by the way, Jesus doesn't want you to feel either guilt or shame. He took all of that with him. So we don't have to do that to ourselves. And so that's not going to be a good place to land for motivation, right? And let me tell you, there are spiritual forces out there that love resolutions and goals, and they are going to do anything they can to keep you from getting there. They are going to throw all kind of obstacles in your way. They're going to create that perfectionistic all or nothing thinking. And so let's reframe this, right? You didn't fail the plan, right? A plan was never meant to replace grace. And so grace is also not free, like, oh, I screwed up. I can screw up as many times as I want. It's getting back up and really doing it different, right? That's what repentance is. I know it's a big word that a lot of Christians use, and you're like, what does that even mean? It means to turn in the other direction. And so when we ask for forgiveness and when we forgive ourselves, we are going to turn into that other direction that we want to go. And the faster we can do that, the faster we can pick ourselves up, the faster we can get out of that all or nothing thinking, the quicker we can be right back on track, forgiven, and move forward, right? Turned into that place where we want to go. So if you woke up breathing today, God has already given you a reset. So let's sit in with that. For all y'all who are going, but barely, right? Faithfulness is quieter than motivation. And what does that mean? Faithfulness is not a word we use every day, right? Fidelity, not something that's really valued in our system right now and in our values these days a lot. Dependable, reliable, those are things that we can be for ourselves. And that's what faithfulness is all about. But those require perseverance and endurance, even when we don't feel like it. Ugh. It gets so hard, right? It feels so heavy. I know. But this is at the heart of serving your goals, serving God, and stewardship. So the key scripture here, I'm going to just bring in a little one, right? Let us not become weary in doing good. For at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up, right? The rains come eventually and the crop will grow, right? You will get through whatever this hard space is. Just shift into that different place of motivation. What is the long-term goal? Why are you doing this in the first place? What does this have anything to do with, right? So let's talk about like weariness in this faithful place doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Maybe you need to shift the timing of your meals. Maybe you need to set yourself up for success by meal planning and batch cooking your protein. Maybe you need to set aside old messages like, I can't eat the same thing every day, or I don't have time, because these are two things that will absolutely save time for you. I know it doesn't seem like it in the moment, but if you can find a day or two that you can spend just a little bit of time gathering up a bunch of protein all in one place, that is going to make meal planning and meal prep so much easier for you down the road. Veggies are easy, starches are easy, they can pop in the microwave, but protein takes time, right? It takes a little bit of planning. Also, this verse, this Galatians, really assumes that you're going to get weary, right? It starts with let us not become weary. It's assuming fatigue. It's not scolding it. You're gonna get tired. It's okay. And this growth can feel like monotony, right? If you were waiting for your plants to grow, right? Because this is what the analogy is referring to. If you're waiting for plants to grow, it can feel like monotony, like waiting for your grass to grow, right? It can feel kind of boring. But in order for that to happen, like trees have to bud out first, the buds have to drop, and then the fruit grows. And so let's distinguish between being faithful or loyal or reliable from excitement. Okay, we don't have to be excited. We just have to stay in it for the right reasons. And obedience doesn't always mean easy, right? Sometimes being obedient to what we know we need to do for ourselves is tough. And it's that mental toughness that will get you through and allow you to hit other goals. It will also allow you to hit seasons of frustration and pain from a different perspective. So when we can do this little bits of endurance at things that we can control, when things that we can't control hit us, we can manage those so much easier. And so I just want to encourage you to have micro faith, right? Little bits by little bits, showing up maybe imperfectly at times, but staying consistent. I know that's like the C word, consistency, not extremity, right? We don't need to go to some extreme. We just need to stay with it and stay consistent, right? God never asked you to feel strong. First of all, he calls us to lean into him and use his strength. We just have to stay present. So God never asked you to stay strong. He just asked you to stay present with him. And for those who just got started and maybe you feel worse, right? Conviction and discomfort almost always precede transformation. And I'm going to give you a little kind of a weird scripture here, but I'm going to explain it in just a minute. And this is John 15:2. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be more fruitful. So starting something new can feel like a loss before you gain. So maybe we have to trim those bushes back. We have to trim back some vines. We have to trim back the roses before they can bloom again, right? So sometimes it feels like you lose something before it really goes big, right? So pruning doesn't need to feel like punishment. It's actually preparation for something even more beautiful. This early discomfort that you're feeling doesn't mean you went in the wrong direction necessarily. It might, and you may need to reevaluate, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going in the completely wrong way, right? So it's not time to quit. It may be time to reevaluate and maybe shift a little bit, but not completely stop and go back to doing what you were doing before. The other thing about God, which can be super frustrating about him, is that he often removes our familiar crutches before he reveals a new strength. And this is what I was talking about, like learning this endurance, learning a little bit of perseverance, having that faithfulness so that you can have new strength in whatever's coming up, right? I want to normalize like mood swings, fatigue, some resistance that you're feeling, and you need to get in touch with what that resistance is. It may just be unfamiliar. It may be you're out of your comfort zone. And that is where we are going to grow the most, when we are uncomfy, right? This is not regression. This is recalibration, right? We are just recalibrating where we're going. A plane has to do this. If a plane takes off in New York and tried to do a straight line to California, it wouldn't make it. It has to make all kind of micro adjustments along the way to make it there, right? Seems like a straight line, but it's not. So we have to make those micro adjustments as we go, but we keep going. It's that consistency. So if things feel a little bit harder right now, it may be because God is doing some deeper work for you and making those micro adjustments in your thought process, in your plan, in your day-to-day, in old thoughts that don't serve you anymore. And so I'm going to bring all three of these groups together, right? The people who have kind of just quit, right? And you're just like, oh, I can't do this. They're really weary. Maybe the quitters are weary too. And y'all who've just started something, or beginners, and maybe you just need to look at yourself like that. Hey, I'm a beginner, like riding a bike. I don't know how to do this. I need to do this little bit by little bit, and then I'll get good at it, right? And I just want you to think about the fact that God's timeline is usually not our timeline. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure I've said this before, but in ancient days, when Jesus had to go from one place to another, he had to walk. And if you think about the terrain in the Middle East, it was desert, it was rocky, and he had to walk everywhere in a pair of sandals, right? Whether it was hot or cold, whatever the weather might be. And there can be some seriously extreme temperature things happening in the desert. So when he walked, he would have to walk at about 3 miles per hour. Yeah, it's really slow, right? Can you imagine getting in your car? Well, maybe y'all who live in California, that's about as fast as you can go anyway on the I-10, but or whatever your road is out there. Anyway, we have to think about slowing down. And I know I've talked extensively about this, but I think it's really, really important to realize that God does not rank faithfulness by timelines. He honors hearts that keep turning back to him. And so if we keep turning back to every day, every moment, keep turning back to what we really want and where our goals are headed, we can start shifting all the things that we need to shift. And then remember that whatever that end goal is, like that $5 million that I talked about at the beginning of the show, right? Whatever that end goal is, how are you going to feel when you get there? What is that experience going to be like? How will you trust yourself more when you get to that place where you've reached the goal, whether it's cleaning your room or your car or making money or a diet or whatever those goals might be? How is that going to feel at the end? And if you can sit in that and really list out, right? This is some practical application here. I want you to really, really list out how that moment or how that day is going to feel for you when you finally hit your goals. So it's a big deal, right? How's that going to feel? You're going to feel accomplished. You're going to feel excited. You're going to feel like you can accomplish something even more. You can keep going. Maybe your first goal is to just lose 10 pounds, but maybe you have 100 to go. How's it going to feel when you first hit that first 10, right? And the next 10, and then the next 10, right? Chunk down some of your goals into achievable spaces. And this is not a moment where, like, oh, I can go off and eat whatever, or spend a bunch of money, or undo what you've already done. That's not what we're here for. It's about the feeling. And let me tell you, from somebody who is really diving into learning about more feelings, it's really important to feel those feels and figure out what that's going to feel like. And that imagining will help pull you through, those really rough times. All right. So leaning into God, leaning into those 3 scriptures, I really want to remind you again that God does not rank faithfulness by timelines, right? He honors hearts that keep turning back to Him. He is not looking for perfection, right? He's looking for humility. He's looking for endurance and perseverance and leaning in, not trying to make it up yourself. So you may not need a new plan. You may just need a renewed perspective, right? So I really want to focus on grace over grit. Grace over grit. And you know that I just want renewed health, rooted in truth, and renewed by grace, always for each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being on with me today. Hit subscribe, like, find me on all the socials, and let's keep going this year. Bye, y'all. Love you. You've been listening to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Kris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. Tune in every Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on the Transformation Talk Radio for more simple, faith-fueled steps to live the vision God placed in your heart. Are you ready to take the next step? Schedule a discovery call or connect with me at drkrissargent.com. That's DRKRIS Sargent.com. While you're there, download my free ebook, Endless Energy, the 6 non-negotiable keys to endless energy, and sign up for an upcoming masterclass. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share the show, and I'd love to connect with you on social media at Dr. Kris Sargent. Let's keep sparking faith and transformation together. Can't wait to see y'all next time.